What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sports Science Saturday. Today we're going to be talking about prevention versus rehabilitation versus prehab. Prehab, that's kind of a buzzword right now, which stands for prevention and rehabilitation kind of smashed together. And a lot of times in strength and conditioning or in performance science and sports science, we're talking about injury prevention. Realistically speaking, that's not actually how it works. We are looking for injury reduction because we as scientists, we as coaches, we can never actually prevent injury. I can never promise you will never be injured if you work with me. That's just not how it works. Prevention is trying to prevent, obviously, injuries from occurring. Rehabilitation is once the injury has occurred, what you do afterwards in order to return to play, right? So if you have a knee injury, which is super common in sports, let's say it's an ACL, if we want to prevent that, or again, reduce the probability of that happening, we're going to implement some injury prevention or reduction strategies ahead of time. It occurs, and then rehabilitation then follows that to bring the athlete from this level that they're at now that injury has occurred to a higher level, back to their level of play, hopefully also better than what it was before so that won't happen again. The prehab is actually bringing you to a higher level of play so that you're more fit, so that you can handle more load, so that you're less likely to be re-injured or to have another. Not only are we doing the rehab part, but also ongoing after the rehab once they've returned to play, we also want to continue to correct anything that a biomechanical issue that caused that injury or a load issue, a fitness issue, and basically bring them back to a higher level. Most optimally speaking, we would integrate prehab before the person was even injured. Mobility issues, any strength fitness issues, any load management issues, we want to correct that ahead of time to even reduce the risk of injuries, period, and not just be worried about re-injury, right? And not just be reactive. Prehab is super individual. So for every athlete, for every person, it's going to be different. For every sport, the demands of the sport, how that athlete is built, right? Their biomechanics, fitness level, their injury history. And a lot of people think, well, I don't have the time, I don't really have the resources to integrate something else, right? I'm already training this many times a week, or if you're a coach, maybe you have the athletes for 3 times 45 minutes per week or something like that. How do I fit more into this? We'll talk about that at the end of the video. Now, science tells us that there are several factors involved in injury reduction, and a lot of them work together. We'll go through those and then come out with some practical strategies at the end. First of all is movement competency, right? The athlete, the person should be able to move through the demands of their sport or whatever it is they're doing, the demands of their life, relatively pain-free without many movement restrictions, and they should be able to, move in all directions in all parts of their body through a range of motion. Secondly, fitness level. If you have demands for your sport, say you're a soccer player and your sport has this many demands and you are not able to complete or fulfill those demands, well, of course, you're going to have a problem because you're going to be trying to fulfill demands with resources that you don't have. So, of course, that will lead to an overexertion, whether that's overtraining, whether that's injury, whatever it may be. And that's what we do as strength and performance coaches and sports scientists, right? Following those two things directly is load management. We need to be able to meet the demands of the sport. We need our fitness level to be raised, but we don't need to be doing more than that, right? Like more is not better. Sometimes more is just more. If you're pushed too far over the edge, your performance can decrease. You can go into overtraining and burnout mode, and that could also lead to injury in the sense that your body's just telling you to stop. An optimized recovery. So if you have recovery strategies that you're regularly implementing, you're taking days off, you're taking time off, you're focusing on other things besides sports or whatever it is that you're doing, sleep, nutrition, having a social life, taking care of yourself as a human outside of the context of performance. The research tells us that one of the key factors in being able to reduce injury is strength training. Up to 66% of injuries can be prevented through structured, programmed strength and conditioning. 66% is where the current standard research is. That will change, but currently 66%. Plus, the research also tells us the injuries that do occur are less serious, plus recovery time, the rehabilitation time, right? The after bringing them back up to their fitness level time is shorter, and they have a lower risk of re-injury after that. So that seems like a pretty good package deal. So your strength training for us is actually your prehab. A good, planned, programmed strength program is prehab. So how do we fit that in? Do strength training. First of all, use load management techniques. If you're a coach, it's really important that you know the demands of the sport and where athletes kind of have sticking points, where their fitness level might be a little bit off, where they have had injuries before. Again, that injury history is really important, and how much load generally physically and mentally that they can handle, because that's what goes into building these training protocols. The research does tell us that random thrown together strength protocols don't actually help. It's a planned, periodized strength protocol that has the greatest impact on prehabilitation. Again, a common complaint is I don't have the time or the resources. I use certain prehab protocols in our warm-up. So all White Lion athletes have a 4-phase protocol that they go through when they're warming up. Shoulders, knees, feet. We do a lot of things barefoot, lower backs, hamstrings, things of that nature that are all built into the warm-up. Or if we're sprinting that day, it'll be built into the sprint workout. For example, hamstrings is something really specific that we do in drills before we sprint. And then in max velocity sprinting, of course, the hamstring gets enough load that is also a prehab protocol for us. So soccer players, again, hips are a primary focal point and feet are a primary focal point. So we'll do our warm-up barefoot, for example. We'll do a lot of single leg work, barefoot as well, to strengthen the feet and again, strengthen the ankles. So instead of just doing stability work, we take off our shoes and we lift weights on one foot, basically, or we do certain movements, dynamic movements on one foot as opposed to standing on Bosu balls or whatever. The athletes don't notice that we're doing it. It's built in and it's just part of what we do. We do it either at the beginning of the session or the end of the session, preferably at the beginning. With hips, I'm always trying to increase the internal range of motion because that's a really big concern for soccer players. And that's just something that there's 3 exercises of 10 repetitions that we just throw into the warm-up on both sides and boom, that's it. Don't overthink this too much. Train strength, have a focus of things that you might need to work on, again, based on injury history or on the individual athlete. Throw those things into the warm-up if they need extra attention and boom, that's your prehab. Don't get sucked into the concept that more is better because sometimes more is just more and more can actually sometimes be really dangerous. I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, stick them down in the comments or write me on the Instagrams or the Twitters or wherever you may be because I'm probably there as well. And we will see you next time.